Hello and welcome to Under London's Ground, the podcast by archaeologists who love the city of London and all the weird, wonderful, amazing, quirky things that happen here. We will be sharing facts that we have grabbed out of history, dragged through time and present to you in podcast form. I am Paul Duncan McGarrity, archaeologist, comedian and man! And with me is Amy Atkins, the powerhouse behind Under London's Ground, which is also a very active walking tour company as well. So here we have Amy Longshanks Atkins.
For those who don't get that, I'm 6 foot, so
Yeah, great.
So thank you, Paul.
It wasn't that you just enjoy, she just takes a long time eating a lamb shank. Hello, and welcome to the first episode 1, entitled Hangman and the Hall.
Ooh.
Yes. Worst impression of a ghost I've heard in a very long time. So shall we open with we both brought facts with us?
Yep. Crucially, that the other one, they only know the punchline, sort of like headline of the fact. Yeah. So that's the crucial bit. So do you want to go with yours first?
Yeah, I'll go with mine.
Yeah, you go.
So the fact I brought to you is that as part of the payment for a hangman, traditionally, they were entitled to keep the condemned person's clothes.
I mean,
yep.
Immediate reaction.
Yes.
Gross.
Yeah. Do you want to know what's even grosser?
Yes, absolutely.
Right. What's even grosser is that they used to have to take that payment prior to the execution. So they'd take everyone's clothes.
Like naked hangings?
Yes, so naked hanging was the kind of thing.
Okay.
And that was fine. Fine's probably not the right word, but that was fine if the execution was carried out. But there were occasions, one specific one, where 4 individuals, the hangman had already taken his payment, i.e. all of their clothes, and then their pardon came through. And the hangman refused to give them their clothes back because, basically from his side of things,
he'd done his part.
I've come out to do the job. So they all had to go find other
But
clothes.
Surely not actual naked hangings. Like there are other clothes, presumably.
No. The people would be stripped of the gross.
Sorry,
gross.
Hanged.
It doesn't. It doesn't work in podcast form when you just give me the eyes of I'm going to do something filthy. Hey everyone, hung. But yeah, they'd take the clothes as payment, and obviously they'd have this guy basically was told, well, they've been pardoned. Give them their clothes back. He was like, no. These are my clothes now. Like a kid who's licked it.
But so, did they get paid as well as? Yeah,
so it was like a couple of perks. They got paid like a nominal fee.
Yeah.
They got the clothes,
like a clothing allowance,
and they got the body. Yeah. They owned the body afterwards, and so
okay.
They could...
No, go back to that last one. They what?
The hangman, as part of their perks, would own the body of the condemned, and then it was up to them. And this is it would change through time for various laws, but when the only people who were able to be anatomized were condemned individuals, when the only ones that were open to surgeons doing the autopsies, doing their thing. That's how they Royal College of Surgeons. Dung, 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 dung. Hello, we're here to do a thing. If they got the hangman basically could sell the body to medical science, or he could sell the body back to the family for burial.
Oh,
so you'd get bidding wars between the family and...
That's actually quite a cushy job, though.
It's great. All you have to do is just strip them nude.
Okay, not so much into that part,
strip
but
them nude, hang them, and then haggle with the family. So basically,
money,
all you need for that job is absolutely no moral fibre.
Yeah. I think it's sounding quite appealing, to be honest.
Oh, wow. You living in the past is such a terrifying prospect.
I remember reading, actually, that execution sites in London were kind of... You had different ones associated with different types of crime.
Right.
So, Tower Hill was for traitors.
Fancy.
Smithfield was for heretics and witches, so religious crimes.
Yeah.
Execution Dock was for pirates.
So they just leave you there as a warning to other pirates.
Yeah, but Execution Dock, the gallows are actually in the Thames because that's where the jurisdiction of the Admiralty started, was in the Thames.
Oh, because they were water-based.
Exactly.
They were water-based people.
Not the people, they were like mermen.
Seamen?
Who were hung.
Do you know what the best thing is that we've really opened up with a very highbrow episode.
I know, we're archaeologists. We're experts in the past. Hung. Seamen.
Come on, genuinely, if archaeologists had a problem with dealing with penises, we would not be able to look at most art.
Yeah, for if anybody doesn't know, and also quite a lot of artefacts, people in the past loved penises. They put penises on everything, particularly Roman.
Yeah.
Penises
but we will get to that another day.
We're
talking
that's for another day.
Today.
Yeah, let's move back to the lovely...
Enough of penises, more of the dead.
Yeah, so you're talking about what you need to be a hangman, actually, as well. When in the early 1900s, hangings for men in London moved to Pentonville Prison, and they also held 1 week courses to become a hangman in the art of hanging.
1 week courses?
Yeah, and then you could go off and hang to your heart's content and get a new wardrobe and,
Fair enough.
A 1 week course.
It's so weird, though, because if you actually look at the history of hangmen, Jack Ketch, for example, is probably the most famous executioner.
Yeah.
And he got I think he got suspended for being bad at his job. And then the guy who replaced him was only there for a small amount of time before he ended up getting executed for stealing. The number of hangmen and executioners who end up themselves being executed.
But no offence to any executioners listening out there, but
we haven't had one since Pierpoint, to be honest.
But it's not a hard job.
If you're doing it kind of like freelance amateur execution, you were a murderer.
Yeah, that's a matter for the police. But it's not a hard job. It's quite hard to get wrong.
No, it's definitely a hard job.
But in the days of axemen,
Have you ever heard of the execution of the Duke of Monmouth?
No.
Okay, so the term severance pay is not entirely linked to you photocopying your bum on the Christmas party and being
No, sorry, just to clarify, I didn't do that.
The royal you.
One.
So it's not just about severance pay. One of the potential origins for the term is the money that you bribe your executioner to do a good job, cutting your head off. So and the story is that the Duke of Monmouth paid off his executioner, but his enemies also got to him. And it turns out it was another cushy thing, was to receive money from the person you were going to kill and money from their enemy to do a bad job, because it didn't matter, because the guy, if you did a bad job, isn't going to come back to customer services.
So awful, though.
Yeah. So this is how bad a job the guy did. Apparently, the Duke had his head on the execution block. The axe came down and was so blunt it bounced off the back of his head.
That's all right then.
No, because once he starts, he keeps going, and he basically sat up and was like, essentially,
excuse me?
What is this? Can I speak to your manager? But the guy had to keep going. This is horrible, this story. The guy had to keep going because it was an execution. So you started, you see, you finish, and he hadn't brought any other axes with him, and he had to
bludgeoned him, basically.
Bludgeoned him through the neck with this axe. Got halfway, right? So the guy's like a Pez candy dispenser. Got halfway, and then had the gall. The crowds turned up for an execution. They're like, "We're here for an execution."
That's quite a show, though, to be fair.
No, because they turned on the execution. They were like, "Boo! Bad job! Boo!
Peer review.
This is not what we came to see. This is gross."
Yeah, but people loved gross.
Yeah, but this was too far because
I mean, to be fair, it's hard to know where the line is with an execution.
The line is if it goes straight through, They had there's another one, possibly apocryphal. If you were a gentleman, you could pay for a swordsman. You could be executed by sword.
Anne Boleyn was executed by a French swordsman, wasn't she?
And I can't remember who it was, but there was one guy apparently asked to be done, stood up, and the swordsman went through him.
Yeah.
And then went, "Shake yourself, sir. It is done." And he kind of went, "Oh."
That
sounds like
rubbish.
PR, doesn't it? That sounds like the swordsman told that story. Anyway, so the execution, Duke of Monmouth is bouncing around all over the place, and this guy's like, "I'm sorry, everybody," and they're like, "Ah!" And midway through the executioner had the gall to say to the crowd that is turning on him, clearly, God does not want him to die today. He's left him like half head on, half head off.
It's a good excuse, though, to be fair.
Yeah, and tried to leave the scaffold, and the crowd went, no, you've started, so you'll finish.
He tried to leave the scaffold when the guy was like, all that.
Yeah. Because he basically was like, he knew he had a blunt axe, and it was like not going through. But like many executioners, he had a day job, and he was a butcher, which again, a lot of them had the day job of being butchers. So he just got his carving knife, sat on his neck and just. Huh? It was like, behold, the head of a, and you can imagine the crowd
like 20
going,
minutes later.
Yeah. And the crowd being like, go, one job!
Yeah. Encore!
Yeah. Do him now! No, I'm sorry! But yeah, it basically had a lot of perks being an executioner.
But it's a bit weird to think that, because obviously we think of this as being a very long time ago.
Yeah.
It's a bit weird to think that actually the last hanging in Britain was in 1964. Yeah. That's the year my mum was born.
Mate, there's so many bizarre things. You know, the last, stuff that you think has happened so long ago.
I know.
Do you know which one I'm about to say? Do you know when the last prosecution for witchcraft in the UK was?
No, when was that?
The last prosecution for witchcraft was in the 40s.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, in the 1940s. Someone was... I'll do it in another episode. Yeah. But, yeah.
But you know that actually capital punishment... So capital punishment was repealed, I think, in 1965. And then... But except for treason... And the only time that capital punishment fully got abolished for treason for everything was 1998.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, because I was a treasonous child.
I bet. Yeah. You're Scottish.
Boo. I'm not Scottish. Not boo. Oh. We've lost the north of the ball.
Yeah. Nice. Well, can we move on to a slightly... much less macabre note.
A much less macabre
And let's move on to my fact about bodybuilding. So the Royal Albert Hall hosted the world's first bodybuilding competition, which was judged by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
What?
Writer of Sherlock Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes.
So obviously the Royal Albert Hall is that iconic concert venue in South Kensington, was built by Queen Victoria and was going to be called...
With her own hands.
Brick by brick.
Thick forearms, that woman.
She renamed it for Prince Albert after he died.
Yes. What was it called beforehand?
The Central Hall of Arts and Sciences.
Oh.
Royal Albert Hall has a slightly catchy
name. And now, but like, how many things did she then, like, I don't want you to give me a complete list, but genuinely, he died and she went around the country going, that's Albert, that's Albert.
It was part of Albertopolis.
The museums.
He wanted lots of museums to be built after the Great Exhibition, and he proposed this site, and then she called it.
That makes sense.
Hall. Yeah,
but she did name a lot of things Albert.
Yeah. So the hall...
breakfast is called Albert now. I'm going to eat it sadly.
So the hall is now sort of like an emblem of music venue, like a music concert hall. But actually, after it first opened, it was famous for having really terrible acoustics.
Really?
Yeah, and it was jokingly known as the only place where a British composer could be sure of hearing his work twice because the echo was so bad. And they actually, I know, I love that. But it was only resolved in 1969 when they put some, like, there's like funky coloured discs in the ceiling.
Yeah.
They're like fiberglass discs to sort of take some of the sound. Yeah. It was really awful, and it was built as sort of like a music venue.
Yeah. It's also like one of the like early places that British professional wrestling was put on.
Well, you're getting onto my fact.
Because this is it. Because everyone's like, I'm actually up to go and see
the ballet.
Michael Ball in a concert at the Royal Albert Hall. Ball at the Hall.
So the very first major bodybuilding competition was held at the Hall in 1901.
Yeah.
Which, was bizarrely judged by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. And there were 60 men who competed for a prize of 1,000 guineas.
You said 1901?
1901.
Like, What is bodybuilding? What does that look like in 1901?
I've seen photos, and it's like the stereotypical like leopard print like suit or sort of like weird loincloth thing, like handlebar moustaches, black tights, the whole shebang. Yeah, it's really something.
Arthur Conan Doyle going, this gentleman has truly involved himself in the calisthenics. He's lifted those incredibly round weights that we see in cartoons.
Yeah, it's just quite strange. I mean, they are ripped, don't get me wrong. I thought they were going to be quite like, ooh, really? I'm lifting this dumbbell. But no, like they are quite ripped.
This man once ate celery.
Yeah.
He's so strong.
If you want to see some 1901 fit men, I recommend you take a look.
Right, wow. Is that your
my recommendation for the week? But in the course of researching this fact, I found some other massive claims to fame for the Hall. So you've just mentioned the wrestling one.
Yeah.
But the Beatles and the Rolling Stones performed on the same bill for the one and only time in history in 1963.
At the Royal Albert Hall?
Yeah, the Royal Albert Hall.
That'd be an interesting gig.
Oh, I think that would be amazing.
I feel like their crowds hadn't diverged at that point. I'd like to see them like at the height of their powers later on. Just lots of screaming girls and lots of angry bikers.
Yeah, the conflicting audiences.
They certainly went off in different directions after that.
But Pink Floyd were banned from playing at the Hall again after their show in 1969 because they fired cannons, they nailed things to the stage, and so they were banned from performing again, which I quite like.
Do you know I've performed at the Royal Albert Hall?
What?
Yeah. I performed at the Royal Albert Hall.
Who are you?
Paul Duncan Garrity.
Paul Duncan Garrity.
Because they've opened up this new room that's like not the main hall.
Oh, so
but
it's not.
No. The number of people who is like, so they've opened up the Elgar room to smaller performances. Okay. But everyone I know who's been in there is like, I've actually performed at the Royal Albert Hall.
To be fair, you would do that.
Yeah, you can't take away from it. It's in the same goddamn building. It might be next to the bar, but
it's important. Yeah. It's there. It's in the walls.
It's definitely not what they originally thought.
No.
I was dressed as Voldemort. It was a really weird day.
Was it that show?
Yes.
At least it wasn't your naked show. What other claims to fame? For 20 years, the Royal Albert Hall hosted the Eurovision Song Contest.
20 years?
No. I've got my facts mixed up. Let's rewind. In 1968, the Hall hosted the Eurovision Song Contest for 1 year.
Yes.
We didn't win it for 20 years in a row, I can assure you.
I was going to say, an unbroken 20-year record
I
I'm not aware of.
And for 20 years, from 1969, it hosted the Miss World contest.
Oh, that's very different.
I'm always getting those two confused, Miss World and Eurovision.
I would absolutely have given my right leg to listen to Terry Wogan doing the commentary for Miss World.
Oh, I don't know if we would. Let's not speak ill of the dead. Perhaps my favourite, other than the Arthur Conan Doyle bodybuilding competition.
Again, I want to know what his. I want to know what his.
What are his credentials?
Yeah.
Why is Sir Arthur Conan Doyle?
Was Arthur Conan Doyle ripped? Was he like
author?
I've broken another pen. Every book in this original version is, and then
he had a protein shake.
Holmes just punched him to death. Take that, Moriarty! Smack, smack. I'm so angry from these Victorian roids I'm on.
What was I going to say? Yeah, so my second favourite one that I think you will very much enjoy is that in 1891 the Royal Albert Hall hosted the first sci-fi convention.
When?
In 1891.
They haven't got enough sci for the fi.
No, it sounds weird.
Go on.
So it was called The Coming Race and Vril Ya Bazaar and Fate.
Say that again.
It was called The Coming Race and Vril Ya Bazaar and Fate. So it was an event to bring people together inspired by a science fiction story by Lord Lytton. Mm-hmm. The hall was turned into the city of Vril Ya. And there were stalls with like themed magic shows, fortune telling. So it was like the world's first Comic-Con in 1891.
That's amazing.
I know. I would imagine Sir Arthur Conan Doyle would be at that, not at that. Maybe he turned up like a few years late, and they're like, yeah, you'll do.
Yeah. Weirdly, Doctor Who was actually signing things.
You're a nerd.
Nerd.
Yeah. Shall we move on to some
quick
fire facts?
But before we do, we just want to take this opportunity to tell you very quickly about the other work that Under London Ground does. Why don't you lead us off on that?
So, Paul and I, both archaeologists, both live in London. love what we do, love the city that we're in, and so we run guided walking tours that tell you about what's been found under London's ground across the city. The tours are themed. So
what tours do we have?
We've got a Roman London tour.
Let's do this properly.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that sounds amazing.
That's such good value.
We haven't said how much it's worth.
I assure you, it's very good value. We have a Roman London tour. We have the history of entertainment through the ages in London, and we have an archaeology of death tour for all of you who enjoyed the, frankly, alarming amount of time we spent talking about hangmen. Yeah, so give us a follow on Instagram as well, where we post interesting facts, which is at Under London's Ground.
Yep.
And we have a website, which is underlondonsground.com, for you to check out news and book walking tours there.
Wonderful. And now let's finish as we finished every episode so far.
As this is the inaugural episode, yeah.
With our quick fire facts to send you on your way. So the first one is Jon Snow, not that one, Jon Snow, who famously identified the cause of the cholera outbreak in Soho, also invented chloroform.
I love that. He's a very talented guy, that Jon Snow.
Yeah. People say he knows nothing.
Yeah, no. One of us was going to get there first.
Yep.
It was going to be you. People say he knows nothing. You're awful. So my quickfire fact, up until 1980, all banks operating within the City of London had to have an office within 10 minutes walk of the Bank of England. This was so that if there was a crisis, the chief executive of every bank could be at a meeting at the Bank of England within 30 minutes.
Brilliant.
Guess you don't need it now, you've got Skype. A bit unnecessary now. But yeah.
So that's it. Thank you very much
for
joining
us
on the first episode of Under London's Ground. From me, Paul Dougherty, and from you,
Amy Atkins.
We wish you well, and we hope that you find something interesting near you.
You've been listening to the Under London's Ground podcast. You can find us on Instagram at Under London's Ground and on our website, unsurprisingly, Under London's Ground, where you can book to have a tour of London given to you by an archaeologist. The music you've listened to through this podcast was provided by Brown Boots. Check them out if you can.